Beautiful day, brothers and sisters. Welcome to another video. How I make it good or not for us. This is for our edifying soul. Thank you for joining me to this present moment. Thank you for joining me in this present moment. And I don't know what else words to say. So, welcome, brothers and sisters, heirs of our Father's promise. Welcome to another video. And as normal, as what we do every day, edifying our souls. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. And of course, today, like normal, we're going to talk about something very important as of the old and modern time, and also the present, as how we as people should be edifying our spirits. All right? Now, as today, what is the good news? Well, the topic is going to be follow not the world and the cost of self. And that's what a lot of people are doing, being disingenuous. It's a reprobative mindset to people's permissive will on what they allow themselves to believe rather than what is truth. Now, today, right, like I always give you a reference on the interactions that I go through with people. And one of them, actually, I took a little note on the, the whole entire conversation, or at least some aspects of it. Okay. And this right here has to do with the passage from Deuteronomy, I believe. No? Yes, it is. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verses 28 through 29. And of course, we can always talk about, the word, but a lot of people, for some strange reasons, they don't look at the Bible as some aspect of a guide or somewhat of a reminder, or like I say, guide or instructions to help people understand that a certain lifestyle is not necessarily good, right? When it comes to sinning, because everything that was good was shown as good, and the bad was giving of what? A punishment. So now the young gentleman that I was on his live, a very, 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 very intelligent young man, just like everyone else on the panel and the young sisters as well, right? They were asking very good questions. Now, one statement about that chapter, which is, let's actually first read it, right? It says, if a man find a damsel that is a virgin, which is not betrothed, and lay on her, and lie with her, and they be found, then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he hath humbled her. He may not put her away all these days. Now, the thing about translation is that when we look at certain aspects of the verses, sometimes it might not even mean exactly what we want it to mean. And the reason for that is because certain books my apologies. It's because certain books, like if we were to look at the Codex, or possibly, well, not necessarily the Geneva, the original text doesn't at all say it doesn't say the word grape, right? And the problem with that is the misconception of the word. Now, if a man is found that he laid with a woman, because that's basically the aspect that the original text says, that he laid with a woman, and they were found, her being in his possession as of the act that they're dealt with in the situations of the activities, right? He has to basically marry the woman. Now, of course, grape, I'm not advocating for anything grape related. Never will I ever do such a thing. That is a very heinous thing to even allow or propagate out here. But the young man was saying that, is it okay for the Bible to promote these type of things for kids to to allow themselves to see this? So I had to remind them that no, it's not, because in those days, right, if anybody was caught, because mind you, these people, right, tried, those people of the older times, they tried to reduce the amount of bloodshed that was emitted for years, because let's remember that these people practiced the law of Moses, which was the law of man, not necessarily the law of our creator. Now, the law of our creator was made on broad standards. The law of Moses was a communicative type of act given so that when it comes to standards as of how we commune against amongst each other on the things of the land, right? We are able to take responsibility for that. And the commandments of our Father is not to be it's not to be augmented. It's not to be taken outrageously or irrationally. It is what it is because it was laid to stone. Right now, we have the case where back then, like I said, that there was so much bloodshed. Right, many people were actually did not know much. Well, they knew right and wrong, but there were people committing these type of atrocious act. So the fact that it was mentioned, right, it wasn't like, hey, that's permissible act that can just be bypassed. No, there were consequences. These consequences came with either the person being exiled and many more that actually committed these type of acts, right? That did not want to marry, right? Which was basically a second option, right? Or a third option, however you want to consider, whatever order that you want to say it. Most of them, because if you were to commit those type of activities, it was considered idolatry in some aspect, very much, right? So they would be stoned until they're unalived. So none of these things were what? They were not considered a good act. It was just the fact that marriage, when it comes to that, was an option because why the fathers back then in those traditions were responsible for their daughters and how they gave their daughters off. So when they talk about money in exchange or anything of cost or value, that was dealt with the families, meaning what's it called, the head voice of the family in both sides, the man and the woman, so that these type of things can be arranged without the necessity of somebody losing their life. It was never said that it was appropriated or agreed on for these things to be normal. It was not normalized. So I had to remind the young gentleman, our brethren, that hey, this is a key factor of reminding us that hey, these type of acts are not okay. And the Bible shows this, right? Because I even said this to the young sister, to the sister, right? because she had asked me, how do we know? And mind you, the two statements don't really correlate, but they're gonna correlate eventually once I land. How do you know to differentiate the Holy Spirit and familiar spirits? Now, I had to remind her, just like prophecies or anything else that is dealt in that card or in that region, it has to do with three factors, which are more than that. But the main three factors is what? The truth, right? The word, and what else? The truth, the word, and what? Conviction, in a sense. The truth, word, and conviction. Because the word is of our Father. It can be seen, it can be understood. The concept is truth. There's no fallacy. And it goes also with his word, which is already laminated on a rock, on a solid foundation, which cannot be changed. And the conviction will always go back to what? His truth. So it would be convicting that there would be an influence that will flow through you regardless. And it will be of his will. The conviction is his will. So when we know his will and his intention, it doesn't matter if it's, oh, you know every step. You don't need to know every step. Just know that his will has already been set of the characteristics of who he is. So understanding his characteristics as the promise that he made to show us favorably shows exactly what else? Like I said, his truth and his word. So his word is his promise. His truth is made through all categories being of his will as well. Now, how is that relevant to the previous statement? Now, the reason it's relevant is because when people twist and they nitpick exactly a narrative on what they're just reading to add on to a point, it makes it kind of very hard for people to understand the purpose of what it was written. Now, mind you, not in my previous videos, right? I made it very clear that the Pharisees and the scribes were the ones that were given the authority to transcribe some of these verses, which we have the 600th century or the 600 year, right? We have CE, AD, right? After Christ, AC, BC, right? And all of these things, they factor in when it comes to history. So, them translating these things and giving it out, because mind you, the corruption started once the Holy Scriptures were given to the Roman. So, instead of it becoming more so a life lesson and instructions on how to be able to obtain eternal life, it was now basically washed. It was YT washed because the Romans were mainly what? They were mainly YT. They came, majority of them came from the Caucasus Mountains. People, I don't know if people don't realize that. Yes, not everybody that was considered Pontius or Caesar was not necessarily melanated fully, because there were melanated people and there were melanated Romans and there were also non-melanated Romans, and they don't come from the same region. So when it comes to history and how these stories are passed down, rather than it teaching a lesson, it was more so included as if, mind you, intentions with narratives, it was given so much to a point where it was given to a point where there was no support to actually conclude that statement or those statements. Because why? Arguments. Arguments can be made. The same way they talk about Mary and Joseph and the age of Mary and Joseph, and they want to also conclude that graping situation and that factor. Now, if I wanted to say something like this, and mind you, like I said, the word grape it doesn't ring a good bell in my mind. It's never a good thing. Now, we were to factor that scenario and place it with the same situation as of the moment, right? That is happening in this modern time where there are 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds that are not raped, but that are sexually active because of the fact that their parents are not being watchful and they're not keeping their eyes on their children. It will be chaotic for me to say that more than saying that, oh, Mary was about 16 years old and Joseph was about 20. Now, I could say something about Prophet Muhammad. Everybody's going to get on my back about that. But mind you, Joseph and Mary been knew each other, right? It's just the fact that they didn't collide bodies. Because we don't really hear much of a story about Joseph and Mary, unless there is a story. And that will be for another video. Because we have to do a lot of deconstructing in a sense of understanding knowledge rather than, allow. Because mind you, when I get on these panels, I don't come to impose people. I come to get their perspective and I come to give my perspective and we come to a conclusion because I can tell for a for a strong understanding that the people that I talk to, they got an understanding that hey, this might actually seem like a life lesson, learning period of something that actually makes sense more now rather than just us taking a verse and it's like, hey, we know certain verses, we are very well equipped with knowledge on the Bible on certain aspects to a certain degree, but we did not look at it from that perspective. And I can totally agree, but then I can't be like, hey, you're stupid. No, you're very intelligent. I give people credit on however many level, however many rhetorics of cautionary statements that come out of their mouth, which are they claim. I give them credits because at the end of the day, they do have good questions, which why is it that the head church, for example, is supposed to be the example to the world, and yet there's still problems and everybody is now suffering because they've been the mobsters of the entire instigating of wars that have been happening for centuries throughout history. They are the key factor of what the church is supposed to look like. And mind you, the same way they tell you that you have to go to church, there was the one that agreed that people should be going to church on Sundays when it's actually a fresh lie. It's a fresh lie. It's a fresh lie. But we know that the Sabbath, the day of rest, is on a Saturday. Genuinely. So is this made out of inconsistent knowledge, or if because somebody who has the scriptures and the manuscripts cannot misconcept knowledge that has been passed down through their language from people that betrayed Christ and instigated other people of his own kind to betray him, that they don't know this knowledge and they allow it to happen for thousands of years, so much that it became accustomed to the it became accustomed and it was normalized to the people now, to the whole populace that now believe in these ideals of you know imagery that has been placed in people's minds to basically follow. and they direct everybody to listen to them, to follow their instructions, but then yet they don't show these type of love. And that's the reason why we stay hearing about bad things going on in the church, because of these narratives. Mind you, I even told the brother that there are a lot of heretics in the church, let alone the churches. In some churches, there are a lot of heretics, you know, in general. If there was about 30,000 churches in the entire world, I can guarantee you, if we do a rationality of proportions, there will probably be maybe about 300 churches. There will probably be about a good 300 churches that are genuinely walking in faith. The same way, if there's 12 billion people, there would be about 1 million people, and I'll be generous, I'll say 5 million people that are walking in true faith. The rest, that are probably equivalent to a couple of hundreds of millions in population, they're just there because they follow either tradition, or you could say they follow either religion or a lifestyle, or they follow their teachers, which they don't even know any better. Because there are some people that preach, excuse me for a second. There are some people that preach, but yet they'll tell you they have the Holy Spirit, and they'll be jumping around their church, their temples, their mosques. They'll be the ones trying to speak in tongue, but yet there are schools that teach people how to speak in tongue deliberately. Is that learning? Is that actually speaking a tongue? Or is it a marketing scheme? So some of these heretics have true good questions, and I figured that a lot of the heretics that do have true questions that are genuine, they have a genuine seek, or they have a genuine what is it called, intention of knowing this knowledge, and it's not to justify their loss or their incapabilities of wanting to understand consequences of them just wanting to live a free life. Is that they want to hope that it's true, so that they can have a reason to change their lives. But unfortunately, majority of Christians don't make it easy, because why? They don't know how to. They follow their own feelings and the spirit of the religion that possessed that influenced them to go ahead and basically inflict, rather than teaching and letting the spirit convict the person that they're giving their own testimonies to. Giving somebody a testimony don't mean you have to tell your whole life background story. You're giving somebody a testimony. It's a heartfelt thing, meaning you don't, just because you found somebody, that doesn't mean you have to tell somebody your testimony right off the brink. What makes you think that that is a imagine talking to a Christian, right? And I use the word Christian so we can understand, but this is a Christ-like panel. So we're going to say to true believers, imagine talking to a true believer that's patiently listening to you and your testimony, and you tell your whole life story. It's not going to convict me if I already believe. I'm going to look at it like, hey, you're trying to compete with me or something. Who can tell the best testimony? I don't care much about the testimonies in the sense of my beliefs. I already know that my Father exists. Those testimonies can be good as a reminder, but it's better for people that don't believe. And that's the reason why when I came on the live panel, I set the example on how we as Christians should be talking to people, not to be disrespectful or nothing. We should be knowledgeable, and we should be respectful and sharing the love and the peace of what we're given. And this is not me judging anybody. This is definitely a panel where we do a lot of edifying. where we do a lot of edifying. And when I talk to most people, I always give the factor of understanding that it is not a good thing to have ego when you're teaching somebody, because why would somebody listen to you when you're belittling them? It doesn't make sense. I wouldn't even listen to you if I was a Christian. And if you're on a panel and you're having a conversation, you're talking to people, you want people to text a message, but you don't bring them up for them to actually physically speak to you, I'm going to look at that like a condescending type of behavior. And I'm not judging. What if I don't want to text? I don't want to type the whole entire live. That would be kind of heinous for me to do so every 10 seconds, just so I can get my long statements across. And it's not even an essay or anything, it's just a good 5 to 10 words, and that's it. Can you imagine? And this is what I say: if you're going to hop on a panel to interact with people on the level that you know that you will want somebody to interact with you with if you were in their shoes. Because at the end of the day, we're talking to people that are either believers or not believers. Some people, they're believers but they're not true believers. So there are three parties right now that is going on. There are four parties, but the fourth party are people that are not believers and they don't want to be believers. We have believers, non-believers, and we have believers that are not true believers. Believers, when I say believers, I'm talking about true believers. We have true believers, we have believers that are not true believers. Well, we have believers. Let me reiterate that statement. We have true believers in the faith. We have believers that don't have true faith. And then we have non-believers. And then we have what? We have non-believers that don't want to believe or have faith. There are four categories. And the three categories, even the fourth one, there's always a potential chance for people to come back. That's the reason why I make these videos, because for those that want to assimilate or that wants to copy or anything that I say, I'm totally okay with it. I just pray that the Spirit guides you in the fact of retrieving souls for the good purpose and not to start war, because we like I got on the panel, right? And when I got on the panel, there was a conclusion. So there was an understanding of what a narrative was being thrown. Not in the sense of me trying to destroy people's understanding. No, I'm trying to destroy the spirit of confusion. Because when I got on there was peace. When I got on there was peace. There was no hate. Even if people were saying the statement that they were saying, I set the tune, I set the frequency, and I set the mood. Forget what everybody else was doing. I was responsible for me showing the light of my Father. Very simple, point blank, period. I was responsible for that. And I love this brother so much that I followed his account. I don't follow everybody's account. I genuinely don't. There are people, if I follow your account, that means that you are giving me content that I would actually come back and enjoy watching, if it's either funny, informative, whatever, in every factor that is genuinely good for my spirit and good for my emotion, good for my mind, and good for my body. If I have to learn how to do better push-ups, breathe better, hermetic practices, and I don't do that witchery stuff because I'm very much inclined when it comes to knowledge, when it has to do with science, or you could just say chemistry or physics. um I mean, I like quantum. I don't understand everything in quantum physics, but I do like certain concepts in quantum physics, and I don't really sit down to learn everything in there, so I don't really take the chance to want to understand certain concepts because there's no need. I understand the fundamentals of what I need to know, and everything else is taught by the Spirit. I can literally look at people and be able to understand that, hey, this is an agent, this is a conspiracy, this right here is a factor of manipulation. But yet, I'll still be very genuine to the people, and I show love without discriminating anybody. And I joke around, laugh, don't curse, don't say anything hateful to anyone. And if I say anything wrong to anybody, I apologize for that. Simple. Very simple. But let's get into the word real quick because I don't want to hold you guys up forever. And did we forget the topic? No. Follow not the world in the cost of self. So that example was to what? When people was to say is to say what? People will give a narrative if they don't understand. So we have to be compassionate and patient enough with others to be able to give them the understanding through love and not confusion and not disrespect. If somebody says something disrespectful to you, we're not other religions. We're not Buddhists, we're not Hindus, we're not Islam. We are Christ-like people. So we follow by the example. We are the example. When Christ left, he made us the example among ourselves because he is our personal example. That's why salvation is personal. You deal with Christ personally on your own behalf, but we have to deal with each other every single day, or at least when it's convenient. Let me say that. But yes, we're going to be in the Chronicles of Saints Luke. Now grab your biblioteca, your Bible, and we're going to be in chapter 12, okay? And I basically went around and summarized it for you guys. So we're going to make it just really quick because I'm running on a timer and I don't want to make it as long as the previous videos. And I really do try to not make these videos very long and just more so suiting for a good, time frame for you guys. So let's get started, all right? And the first statement says, faithful to do without sight, faithful to do without sight, for the price is worthy. Verse 44, right? For those that did nothing will be on the same boat as the non believers, and in contrast to the opposite stated in verse 45 and 48. So, faith without works. Now, people say that a lot, but people don't even realize that just because you're going out there giving food to the homeless doesn't make it a good work. Just because you're saying the word Jesus, because we use the word Yahushua, Yahusha, right? Just because you say the word Christ every single day, does not mean that your intentions are pure in the intent of wanting the grace of our Elohim. Giving money doesn't make you good. Money itself is not a good one, is not a good thing. Yes, there's currency when it comes to conversion, but that doesn't mean the acceptance of all things in this world. And that's a doctrine taught by man. But let's continue. Then it says, then Christ said, I will come to destroy the earth. But for what reason should it but for what reason should if it already is destroyed? And it's stated in verse 49. So why would I destroy the earth if it's going to destroy itself? All I'm going to do is just pick up the leftover pieces and basically break down everything else. Break down everything else that's rest. So let the bad do its bad. We're gonna put a band-aid on what can be band-aid and do a surgery on what could be, put back together and give people certain medicines if that's the case. But let the bad do the bad. Let them destroy themselves. Let them pile up a whole bunch of evidence against their own self of them being able to do good unto others genuinely out of love and not out of lust or desireful interest, or should I say lustful interest, because lust, same thing as desires, and there's a whole level to it. I already gave you guys an example when it came to what is it called, the fruit, as to why we have the aspect of understanding that we do now. I do like using that word aspect a lot because let's just say other words, if I were to pronounce it, I would start challenging myself to start using better words, but the pronunciations are incredibly outrageous. But I'm trying, okay? So work with me, please. All right? Oh yeah. One thing also, it also bugs me a little bit when I do freestyle and when I rap, because like I know the word, I know what it means, and I can pronounce it, but I have to probably say it like 3 or 4 times before I deliberately say it out of my mouth, because the first time it might not sound right. The second time it just might sound okay, but the third time you will understand and know exactly what I'm saying. All right. But that verse, right, was verse 49 all the way to, well, let's just say that yeah, it was verse 49. Then the next one, the next summary says, then Christ went to say, I cannot allow one to turn on each other and create division, stated in verses 51 to 53. So it's just like the church. There will always be an oddball that will point out the bad of what is supposed to be good, that is portrayed as good but is really bad. Somebody that's going to be like, let's put it like this: if there is 20,000 people in one building, right, or an arena, right, out of those 20 people, if there were all 20,000 people, if there was a factor as a ratio, right, let's just say that 15,000 people are doing bad things and 5,000 are not. They're just neutral, right? Out of that 5,000, well, not even out of that 5,000, but in totality, from the 5,000 and the 15,000, those that are neutral, 5,000, those that are 15,000 that are doing bad, right? There will be a probability, right, of those that are doing bad, of people that will point them out, which would be less than those that are doing that are neutral, obviously, right? But when we look at it from a natural point of view, from a natural point of view, there will possibly be about a good 1,000 people out of that 15,000. If not, then about maybe a good 500. And out of that 5,000, about maybe a good 1,000. So 1,500 that will point out people being the eyeballs, and they will be casted out. They will become the black sheep because they don't follow the patterns of the modern doctrines that is so entitled by people that believe that they're in a higher status than others. When really, those hierarchies or monarchies or whatever people want to say, patriarchies, right? They were made by man. For the same way people say that the Pope and all of these things were made by a creator. No. Remember that the apostles were the ones who created that hierarchy to become a monarchy of some kind. It wasn't our creator that gave that role. Remember, when a creator give a role to somebody, it is established and is known amongst all people and is respected even by the animals, the things of the earth, the things of the land, the things of fire and water, all creatures and spirit. That's how you know direct and overall authority is given. But let's look into the next verse, right? The next verse said verses 54 through 59. It states, speak of how all of us should be diligent with all we do in the circumstances of when the end is near, and all we will be. We will be. For we're accounted, well, we will be accounted for. Let me say that. We'll be accounted for. As of how we will be judged by our Creator and punished, well, how we'll be judged by our Creator, and punishment will be served for all of our doings, actions. So it doesn't matter if you've done good and you've been saved, you're still gonna get punished to a certain extent. It just might not be eternal damnation, but you will get pointed out for your flaws and the things that you've done wrong. And I'm totally okay with that. Because at the end of the day, if I'm not doing wrong and I've done wrong, why would I be ashamed? That means that I'm still holding on to the wrong that I did back then. I don't smoke. I just had a whole dream where my enemies try to use smoking against me as if I still smoke. I don't go out here trying to be perverted or having a perverted mindset or trying to talk to somebody's daughter, trying to talk to this person's daughter, trying to talk to like five, trying to be a player, trying to talk to five different women in one. I stopped doing stuff like that. But yet they try to put that in my face in my dreams as if like, hey, that's gonna work out. Hey, this and that. He gonna wake up. He gonna be like, hey, everything is normal when it's not. You know, there's this word called a facade. That's being disingenuous when the enemies know that they just can't do anything, so they use the same tactics. And even when they use new tactics, the new tactics do not work. Why? Because they know that it's just an ending point for them now at this point. They're just trying out of desperation. That's what that is. Desperation. They're desperate. And you know when you're playing chess with somebody and somebody's desperate, they start doing things that are stupid. They start making stupid decisions. Fully. They incriminate themselves. Fully. Because they don't know how to control that whole lust of desire of wanting to win, wanting to achieve, wanting to gain. They never felt that before. Lost when they've been winning for a very long time with the help of demons and devils. They don't know. But let's look into the next verses, okay? Because we have to land with these, right? We have to land. In as a whole, right? And I don't remember, I believe this is the very early verses though. I did not write the numbers down, so please do forgive me. So if you're reading, just follow along, read the whole chapter. It's not a long chapter. It's long enough though. It's not a very long one, but it's long enough. In as a whole, Christ told his disciples to beware of the Pharisees, his hypocrisy. Mm, mm. Of the Pharisees, what? Hypocrisies. All right? Oh, man. This is going to be beautiful because I want to take you guys to a certain, where is it at? He told us about the what? Enemies hypocrisy. Why do you think he told us about the enemies hypocrisy? Why were they warned about the enemy's hypocrisy? Just like Matthew's, right? Chapter 23, 1 through 3, right? We were warned. Don't matter. We were warned, as Christ told us, what? Be careful of what Pharisees tell you, because they sit in the seat of Moses and do not as what they do. And that's not even the same chapter. So they being the Pharisees and the scribes, them being the people that are very serpent-like, and they were called the children of the vipers. Why should I be not worried and concerned about how these are still the children that are tied to the ones that we call the descendants of the Levites, the ones that are arbitrarily holding the power of what we call the church. Because I don't even want to include the Moabites in this, because literature, right, in a sense, was attained prehistorically by the proto Satan Satan. Please do forgive me if I don't say that word properly, but yes, there's a whole list before even the Hebrew Bible, before the Tanakh, before the Torah. Prophecies, matter of fact, let me say that there were prophecies given before even all of these things took place. Maybe not in direct words, but over time the prophecy it was made flesh, and it took action, and it became real, and it was manifested. Thus we have war now against words that is supposed to help us all. It's crazy to me. Just like who? A lot of your churches will be hypocrites. I'm trying to tell you. Now, the next verses summary states, saying nothing in darkness will not be hidden too long, but will come to light. For they only can hurt you physically. Fear only our Creator, the one who has all the power. All is accounted before him, says verse 7. But even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So fear not, therefore ye are of more value than many sparrows. If you're hungry, you think that an animal won't come and bow its head for you to lay it down? If our Father's will allows it to be, animals will line up before you just so you can eat. A tree will grow before you just so you can eat. Water will fall out the sky. A river will come out of nowhere just so you can consume food. He does it for the animals, the insects, the plants. Why not you? And he said that you're more valuable than all of these things that he does not discriminate against, that do not think like you and I. But let's continue. The next statement says, But even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Oh, I already read that. My apologies. Forgive me. Then Christ said, If you bring my name before all, then he will bring your name before his Father. And a contrast to the opposite in all manners of action, though of words. So it's like shouting out somebody shout you out. I am your ticket of passage. Word of mouth. Didn't think of it like that, huh? All right, now let's look at the next summary. Amongst all, you'll worry not of things to say, for the Holy Spirit will intervene. Christ went on about and said to one of his companies that had asked him to speak on his behalf of his whole worldly material. Desire leaving him with a parable in verse 16 to 24. So when you're out here talking, and mind you, that's why a lot of people, when they talk to non-Christians, like I mentioned earlier in my previous statement, that they're scaring these non-Christians because, or even the heretics, is because why? The Spirit don't talk through them. They're talking out of their own logic. You're not even supposed to be out here reaching if you have not reached preaching if you have not reached the credentials to be able to go out there and preach, because you lack knowledge. And you might not even lack knowledge. You might lack patience. You might lack genuinity. You might lack love. It might fit certain scenarios to with certain people, but for you to do that on a daily basis, to talk to everybody, there are conditions that you might lack because you don't carry the Spirit with you. And sometimes it can build your character, where the Spirit can build your character. The Holy Spirit can build your character so that you'll be able to talk. That's why it's important to allow our Father's will to be made manifested rather than our own understanding, because it has to make sense. Not only does it have to make sense, it has to be a point that is accorded to what? The word itself, because the word itself is what? The will. It's the logic. But let's continue though. All right. The statement then says what? Stating on how worldly materials would cost you at the end if it's not for the glory of our Creator. So I did say 1624 for the previous statement, and which is not. I believe that was linked to the other one rather than what I just read. But 16 to 24 was just the one that I just read just now. Um, and discipline must be assured in verse 25 to 27. I mean 26 to 27, basically to show that in terms. So you got to have a fundamental understanding of your faith and where the foundation of your hope lies in, because so many things will come mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally to antagonize you. And this are aspect of ways that the enemy used to disturb you, to inflict and conflict you. They would talk to you. They will whisper words of denial, contradictions to you. But they have no clue that the difference between logic and the difference between not logic. And even when they whisper words of logic, they don't know that they make themselves look stupid when you don't answer to them in a certain manner. And sometimes you like to have a little bit of fun. So you play a little game without even inviting them, but you just, give yourself a reason to smile while they think whatever they're thinking. I'm not the one playing chess. I'm just the one using this to my benefit as interest for me to laugh, to smile, to mock. Well, not to mock, but to smile, laugh, and to make a little jokes out of it, because I know what my jokes is. That's why I laugh at my jokes. Some of my neighbors might think that I have lost it because the way I talk to these devils, I don't play around with them. I would talk to them like they're little insects to me, because why are you even around? Why are you around me? Why are you talking to me? Why are you even looking at me? Why is your eyes fixated on me? If you think that I'm incapable of doing such, that means you find me to be a danger. And if you find me to be in danger, accept the fact that I have a possibility to overcome you in any factor. So you feel like you have to stand to me. You have to send people to me. You have to do all of these. You have to try to stop everything that I do because you know the impact that will be done. And you don't want that to happen because you are in fear. And that's what you're supposed to leave as a mark to your enemies. They're not my adversaries because we don't have anywhere close to the same authority. And I would say they are beneath me. So I don't have to call them my adversary. Somebody that's your adversary, equal share of power. We don't share the same power. Simple. They've tried all of their tricks. They tried everything they wanted to do. And it did not work. And look, I'm still alive. I'm alive, sweetheart. I am alive and well, beyond well. My hearing well, my immune system well, every organ in my body fully functioning, my eyesight well, my breathing well, my spirit well, my mental well. What is it that you're going to attack? Financials? Remember, I have skills. The things that you have to buy, I can make. And if I sit down and I don't know, it doesn't take me a year to fully understand. Not even a whole full month to understand the concept. It will take me a week if I dedicate the time to sit down and actually learn something. Probably less than that. Sorry, sweetheart. Sweetheart. I love how some people say sweetheart, sweetheart. But let's continue reading though, because I do not want to hold you guys up, and it's been way longer than I should have. Okay. Don't go looking for the worldly materials, for our Creator knows what you need. But seek our Creator, our Elohim, for He will provide all through Him. Don't let your desires corrupt you, but stay faithful to our Elohim until His return. Blessed, or let's just say favored, are the ones that prepare themselves daily for the return of our Messiah. For those who wait with no actions will not be favored. Then Christ asked, then who is that? And then we got straight to the next verse, which was supposed to be the ones that led before verse 45 and 48. Because we read it backwards actually by accident, but I had to just go with it. So yeah, a great video as always. Even if it's just, you know, 15, 5, one person watching it. I'm just happy that there is a message being known. Like I say always in all of my videos, if you're gonna use the video, speak the truth. That's all I betroth of you. That's it. Nothing else, nothing more. And if anything else that you want to say it outside of the truth, on your own volition, of your own claim, and do not put the two together. Otherwise, there will be consequences, for sure. And I don't pray for anybody's bad, but don't be out here making our Father look bad either. Very simple. Okay? Don't do that. Don't do that. Because we're not here to do that. All right. All right. So, much love to you all. And appreciate your love. All right, for showing up, for watching, for liking, for commenting. Any questions? Any answers? However so. Words on my pronunciations. Help me. I am your brother, am I not? All right. And you already know what I'm about to say. Somebody said that they don't love you today. Tell them I said, I love you. I love them as well. So if they don't like my kiss, here goes another one. Always be loving. And stop all that toxic stuff, please. You have no business being into colliding of bodies if you don't intend yourself to be married. So hold your drive and stop getting heated. This is not the time to be distracted by these things. Because I get attacked with the spirit of perversion a lot. And it's like, no, we're not doing that. Okay? So warning, overheating. No. Don't mind me. I have my moments, so I have to let it out. Okay. For those that understand, I guess you understand. I have nothing else to say. But peace be unto you and much love.